Hi, this is Amber McReynolds, and I just want to thank members of the committee for accommodating a remote presentation. Just want to verify that I'm being heard okay. Okay. Um, so thank you for letting me do this today. Obviously, catching a flight across the country is a little bit tricky. We have an election coming up in about a month, and also National Voter Registration Day. So we're also in the middle of rolling out a new innovation that I can talk about in this presentation a little bit today. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to share what we have accomplished here in Colorado and answer questions as we go through this. So first and foremost, Colorado has had a few different types of election models over time. I've been here for 12 years in Denver. I actually grew up in Illinois, so I'm a Midwest girl to start. Um, Big Ten actually undergrad, so happy to be on the phone today with fellow Midwesterners. Um, we've really been a state that has had vote by mail over time, and also absentee balloting, as it was formerly called, and early voting and precinct polling places, and then consolidated polling places over time. We kept seeing more and more of our voters request to vote by mail over time, and then we started doing our off year, odd year elections, school board elections, municipal and local elections, primarily with a ballot delivery system, um, starting about 10 years ago. And as we did that, we saw more and more voters request their absentee ballot and to receive their ballot at home. So in that transition, we sort of had a spike in early voting back in 2008, and then it started to taper off as more and more people chose the method of getting a ballot mailed to their home. So what we did after the 2012 election is take a look across the state, and at that time, the state had grown to about 85% requesting voters to vote by mail. So voters were opting in to request their ballot be mailed to them. And what that told us was that our customers were requesting a certain type of service, and that we should consider looking at our model to, number one, save money, but also figure out a better way to serve customers. So our approach in Denver has very much been about customers, and you can kind of see this graphic here, which talks, I think, demonstrates the important values with the election process. Service obviously being the core of it, but you can see on here supportive, innovative, positive, precise, and timely. And so those were some of our values when we approached the election reform process beginning in December of 2012. And our vote by mail, or I should say the Colorado voting model, which is distinctive from Washington or Oregon, because we actually, instead of calling it a vote by mail system, we actually call our system a ballot delivery system. And we give our voters a multitude of ways to return their ballot. And I'll get to this point later, but we actually last year in our 2016 presidential election saw that even though we mailed out ballots to all active voters, over 80% of our voters dropped their voted ballot off in person to one of our secure 24-hour boxes or a drive-up drop-off or one of the vote centers. So people were choosing not to mail it through the post office to come back. So first, our model included a voter registration modernization, and this is where we've seen a lot of cost savings in our model. And some of the elements of the voter registration system included a few things that were very important. And when we identified these reforms, we really looked at the data that demonstrated why people were voting provisional ballots. And what we found in Colorado, we actually had a 30-day precinct residency requirement, meaning that voters had to be a resident of their specific precinct 30 days before every single election. And that was driving up our provisional ballot cast and costing all of our counties a lot of money to implement every election. So we changed that to be a 22-day state residency requirement. So you have to be a resident of Colorado 22 days before any election. But if you move within that 22 days to another county or you go to school somewhere or what have you, we can still accommodate you without you voting a provisional ballot. And then we also implemented registration to up to and on election day. So by eliminating those deadlines, we were able to save a significant amount of money with voters that would be confused by calling us, and we also reduced our provisional ballots in a significant way. And as part of this, we've also created a real-time voter registration system that's in use statewide that has given us an ability to validate the eligibility of voters on the spot and immediately as they register with us. So the other thing I just want to highlight this, provisional ballots up into our reform, and our reform happened right after the 2012 general election. But you can see in our last presidential election there, over statewide, we had over 65,000 provisional ballots. So about 2.5% of our entire electorate voted a provisional. And in the gubernatorial election, which was the first general election after the reform, we saw that go down to less than 1,000 ballots statewide. And in this most recent 2016 election, we had just over 5,000 provisionals cast statewide, with a reduction staying at about 96 to 97% statewide. And in Denver, that was even less. So the graph you're looking at here is actually Denver provisional ballots from 2012 to 2016. In 2012, we had almost 11,000 provisional ballots. And I can tell you, and I'm sure as election officials would share in Indiana, processing a provisional ballot is the most expensive ballot that we can possibly process. It takes a significant amount of time after the election, and anything we can do to streamline that process or reduce that essentially waste in the election process is a good thing. So we had almost 11,000. In 2012, the majority of those 11,000 were counting. So they were eligible voters, met all the requirements. They just, for whatever reason, we didn't get the registration like we should have, or they didn't, or it wasn't sent to us in that 30-day window. So we had a ton of those, and after we were able to do the reform, we saw that decrease by actually more than 98%, and we only had 340 provisional ballots in the 2016 election. And this right here alone, this one piece of the reform saved us over $50,000, just Denver, in that one election. So you can imagine the cost savings that we're seeing as we implement this over a long period of time. And the next part of our reform address changes from the National Change of Address database. And through the reform, we were able to put those reforms in place. So now in Colorado, if you fill out a change of address at the post office, we actually get that data from the post office immediately, and we can move the voter, whether it's across to another county or within a county, immediately move them and update their address. So this has reduced our undeliverable ballots, increased the integrity of our voter registration system, made our address library more accurate, and saved us a significant amount of money, not only with undeliverable ballots, but undeliverable mail. And we have also heard from candidates and campaigns that it has saved campaigns a lot of money because the addresses are more accurate. People can follow up with voters either through the walking list or by mailing in a much more efficient way than they could have previously. So really, this has been a reform across the board, increased accuracy, increased integrity, saved money, and made all of the customers, including candidates and campaigns, a lot happier. And these are just to sort of go over them one more time: accurate voter registration list, reduced undeliverable ballots, and also cost savings. And then the third part of our reform was ballot delivery. And I want to just talk a little bit about how that works for us. We mail ballots out to all active voters. So in Colorado, because we're consuming that information from the post office for when people move, our lists are extremely accurate, even every 2 weeks. And so we're constantly updating our address library, and it's accurate. And that is critically important when you go to a system that includes a lot of absentee voting, or in our case, has ballot delivery. And we want to make sure that we can reach people where they are. and you only become inactive in Colorado if we receive mail back from you as undeliverable. So again, if you look just at some of the Pew Research or any of the studies that are done nationally, Colorado as well as Washington and Oregon have the most accurate list of any state because of our system of ballot delivery and also because of our proactive list maintenance. And to show this, one of the other things that we have built in Colorado in support of our ballot delivery system is what we call ballot trace. And this very much works like a FedEx package if you order it online. When you order something online, they send you email updates as to what the status of your package is. Ballot Trace does the exact same thing for us here. And so you as a voter can sign up with your cell phone number or your email address, and we will update you and tell you when the ballot's been printed, when it goes out for delivery to you, when it's with your carrier for delivery, and all the way back again. And when we verify your signature on your envelope and it's accepted and matched for counting, you will get a final message. And now over a third of our voters in Denver are enrolled in this. They have the transparency to know where their ballot is in any given moment. We know where the ballots are, and if the post office is, we get reports daily by precinct as well as by zip code in terms of the successful delivery rates. And so we can immediately identify an issue with the post office if needed. And this has really given voters confidence in the election process because they know at any given moment where their ballot is. And the same thing, if your ballot and your signature on your mail ballot is marked as discrepant, or perhaps you forgot to sign it, you as a voter will get a message immediately from us as to the status. So we'll say, your ballot was missing the signature, we couldn't match it, please contact us or go into a vote center and resolve that discrepancy. So with this messaging system has really benefited our voters, and it's certainly a necessary support mechanism for any ballot delivery system. And then also, just to give a quick overview, and these sort of documents are also available on our website. Just for the audience and for the committee, our website is denvervotes.org, and we do have an interactive tool on our website that outlines every step in the election process and explains exactly what happens. So if you do have additional questions that I don't have time to cover today, that's a really good resource to see how we go through this. But this just kind of demonstrates one of the overview documents that we share with the public, but also that we have in our main office where all of this happens. All of our rooms where ballots are handled have full windows, are videoed, and the public or any watchers are actually allowed into any of the rooms. All of our election judge teams are bipartisan, so they have to work in teams together, Republican and Democrat together, handling signature verification, counting, any of the processes with ballots. We have the public can come in and watch if they want to. All of the rooms are 24/7 video surveillance. And so we kind of put this all through there so it's very transparent and people can understand exactly what's happening. And I should mention as well, with our system, every ballot that's cast in Colorado is a paper ballot. So there is a piece of paper that goes with every vote cast in Colorado, and that is the official record. So with our ADA accessible machine marking devices, they also produce a piece of paper, and the piece of paper is what we actually tally and count in our process. And then the final piece of our election model in Colorado is voter service and polling centers. So we do mail ballots out to all active voters, but we have preserved accessible in-person options for people at vote centers. We offer voter registration services, so because you can register up to and on election day, these vote centers are available so that anybody who needs that extra support to register or maybe to update their address can do that. They can drop off their mail ballots at any vote center, and they can also obtain replacement ballots if they need to. A couple final things. This just demonstrates our turnout in Denver for the 2016 general election last year. Our overall turnout was 84%. Females did slightly better than males, about 5 percentage points difference in terms of the gender breakdown. 65 and plus in Denver had a 91% active turnout. It sort of goes down from there, and 18 to 24-year-olds were our lowest age category at 68%. But I should say that 68%, we want to continue to see that increase, but it is one of the best national averages for first time and younger voters. And then by party, you can see the breakdown here. So Democrats and Republicans by party turned out at about an 87% rate. Our unaffiliated voters and other voters are slightly below that. 2012, we saw a lot more voters that were opting in to vote by mail, and that cost changed to $4.61 a voter. So almost a $2 savings just in those 4 years because of the increase in vote by mail. And then our reform happened in 2013 ahead of the 2016 election, and we saw a further decrease mainly because of the all ballot delivery, and then we also implemented vote centers. Denver has grown by almost 100,000 voters in the same period of time. So we've also had to, our costs have been decreasing even though we've been adding technology and adding to our systems. And the one thing that I would say on cost, a ballot delivery system like this, and just with our vote centers, we have them open for a few weeks prior to the election. We have one that's open 2 weeks, and then we kind of add to it as election day nears. But when you go to buy voting system equipment, so the accessible machines or any of your other equipment that you normally use at polling places, it's a lot less expensive to do it for a ballot delivery and vote center model than it is for a polling place model. So to give an example of that, we were able to replace our voting system for about $900,000 in this new model. If we would have had our polling place model from 2008, it would have cost the city and county of Denver between $4 and $5 million to outfit all of the polling places. So I will say from a cost perspective, you can save a significant amount of money on voting machines and infrastructure as counties need to replace that over time if you can reduce and sort of go to a model where instead of having so many polling places, you have vote centers supported by ballot delivery. And then finally, and I know it's hard to cover everything, and I'm happy to answer questions as best I can. It was a little hard to hear the committee talking, but I will answer questions as I can. I do have my contact information up here. We believe in posting all of our processes through Periscope and other things online, so follow us on Twitter or go to our Facebook page, and we will constantly post up any of our election processes if you want to watch any of the rooms. And then my contact information is up there, and I'm happy to provide more information or answer questions in any of the methods listed. So thank you so much for the time today, and I'm happy to answer questions.